This computer. Yeah. Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good part of day, everyone. Thank you for joining a large-scale Scrum of New York City, the largest and the probably one of the most active last meetups worldwide. Um, I'm Gene Gendel, I'm your host, and I'm happy to have you all here. Today, we're gonna have one of the series of our virtual events. And we have gone virtual actually before. Unfortunately, COVID, struck us. So for us, it was an experiment before we actually needed to do it. So in any case, today I have another great opportunity. I have a special guest, my colleague and friend from, I think originally from Germany, but lives and works in Helsinki mostly, Wolfgang Stephens. He goes by Wolfie, if he doesn't mind. Wolfie is the large-scale Scrum coach and trainer, and he will help me today with some of the, I guess these are some interesting topics that on minds of many, and we would like to give some structured thinking to this. And I specifically would like to call upon Wolfie because he did something similar with another last trainer from Israel, Alat Sulfur, a few weeks back, and it really resonated with me. So I wanted to invite him here. So he'll probably take most of the time answering something maybe he will ask of me, but then we will probably give it back to you and we'll turn it into a dialogue, okay? So without any further ado, Wolfie, if I didn't do a good job presenting you, please take a minute to say what I didn't say, and we'll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so hello everybody. Yeah, well, you did already a pretty good introduction. Maybe a little bit of background for those who don't know me. So yeah, I'm living in Finland, and I used to work for Nokia Networks for 20 years, and it was the year 2005 when I met Greg and Bas the first time. I was heading program management unit at this time in the business unit, and then they came to us and they said, well, how about this Scrum idea? And I said, well, please go away, you have no idea what you're talking about. But at this point of time, my journey into agility started basically, and then a few years later I became an agile coach and was then one of the coaches in the company basically. And so in this way, I grew up with large-scale Scrum, and I was participating in a lot of the experiments we actually did in the years there. Yeah, and I think that's enough about me now.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Wolfie. So the format is what I'm gonna ask you a question, and I would like to time box you fairly to 3 minutes. See if you can keep yourself confined, and then we'll revert, I guess, right? So let me ask. So the topic of today's conversation, right? Today's subject was resilience of organizational design to help through these tough times, and we're explicitly referring to pandemic situation, everyone being remote, locked down, but not just during these rough times, but also beyond. What may happen as we move forward? So some of this could be a hypothesis, some of this could be a speculation, but hopefully educated guessing goes into this, right? Not just sticking a finger out in the air and say, hey, no, that's what I think. So let me ask you this first question. Organizations are complex systems, right? And as such, we need to, we need to treat them as complex ecosystems, as organisms. Could you please explain what do you think is organizational resilience and why resilience is so important during these challenging times? And maybe you want to give a definition of the resilience first and then go to the whys.
Okay. So I think one big first part is this, that I really regard, or we regard in our community, organizations as complex systems. So in this way, I found a definition of resilience, which I think is most suitable, so that the system, a resilient system, is expected to be able to resist to an extreme event with minimal damages and functionality disruptions during the event. And after the event, it should be able to rapidly recover its functionality similar to or even better than the pre-event level. So this means coming back from the ashes and being even more beautiful than before. So what does it now mean, basically? I think a resilient organization is lean. And this means that in very practical terms, we have not many hierarchies, if any at all. We have no high complexity. And we have also short ways in the company to actually discuss. We have a fast feedback cycle on all the different levels. And so in this way, uh, I think one of the other most important part is, of course, the people working in the organization. So those have to be, I would say, in an environment working in which they can be autonomous. So there has a high degree of autonomy. They can make decisions, because they are knowing what they are doing. So they should be able to make the decisions. And also this of course means that they need to know what they are doing. So they have to have a technical competence. And then the other or the last part of this people aspect basically is that each person needs to have multiple skills, so that when situation is changed and let's say one domain isn't anymore so much required right now, another domain is more required, then the people can easily adapt to this and they bring already all the skills with. So the importance of having a resilient organization, I think, grows with the degree of crisis. So if you have no crisis, let's say in normal times, in peace times, it doesn't really matter whether you have some extra weight, whether you carry some prison balls and the chain around your leg. But then when you need to be flexible, then this is all hindering. So you should basically get rid of all this, get rid of all the extra weight, be agile. Yeah, this is the whole point. And really imagine this literally or figuratively, like when you are in a jungle, you need to survive, you need to be lean and get rid of all the extra package. So I think this is about how I would summarize that one.
Just about the time limit, but I'm interested in, so I'm going to extend, if you allow me, for another few seconds, just to clarify something you said. So that lean structure and having extra weight or extra, complexity that you may have to carry. What some of the repercussions? What some of the negative results you may expect if, let's say, if an organization has it and it has hit that, the phase of dramatic changes or the phase of,
yeah. I think, well, it's like Darwinism in its brutals, death of the unfittest.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, really in worst case. I have been saying this, and guys, believe me, Nokia was able to, for whatever reasons, get within 5 years from 40% market share monopole to bankruptcy. So it is, nobody is safe. Nobody, no matter what you think of your monopoly, you are the greatest on the market. If you miss major issues and if several bad things happen together, you can face bankruptcy.
It sounds like no one is untouchable, right? The great famous movie Untouchables, right? In the series, no one is untouchable. Well, that's good.
Okay.
So,
but now I have a question for you, Gene.
Sure.
So if you think about now the context of less, what we are trying to do there. So what do you think? Would it be better to gradually descale or have some kind of now maybe emergency kind of deconstruction? So what would be the impact on the companies, and especially what is the impact for the people, on the individuals? What do you think about that?
Well, so I mean, not all of my analogy is popular, and not all of my analogy is not always appreciated because sometimes it's a little too abrupt and too direct. But I am going to use the analogy of a weight loss program or Weight Watchers, right? So imagine if someone wants to become lean and fit and adaptive, I use the word adaptive as opposed to agile because it's just easier for layman people to understand what adaptive is. If someone wants to become that, what would be better to gradually, methodically, strategically improve their own organizational, well, we're talking about a human body, right? Maybe lose weight, become more therapeutic about yourself, going through the program of simplifying and becoming simplifying your own body structure and becoming leaner, as opposed to moving up to a point where you are facing some challenges and now instead of meeting a professional trainer, you have to meet a physician. So to me, it is probably better to go, just to make yourself lean and healthy and adaptive. You mentioned Darwinian theory, right? And more fit over time, as opposed to live up to a point where, oh my God, you have to do something or else. Now, if we take this analogy to organizational design and structure and dynamics that we see often, what is better? To keep organizational health up to par and make organizations better, simpler, leaner, more adaptive, more robust, gradually, methodically, thoughtfully, or try to get away with your own maybe irresponsible ways of thinking of your own complexity and structure, and then maybe hitting those rough times as you mentioned, and going into, oh my God mode. What do we need to do? Now we have to deconstruct in the emergency way. And what does it mean to companies? Of course, you start looking for, what can you cut this out? What can you do organizational liposuction, right? And it's never a pleasant exercise. Because now you have to think, well, what do you need to lose, and who do you need to lose, and that who now translates into a human factor, human aspect. Now, what does it mean to individuals? So you've built it's like an elephant. You have grown and grown and have eaten more and more, and you have gone bigger. And now you're at the point where, well, you just have gone bigger. And now there's not enough grass. What do? It is not that easy to cut down on diet immediately, hard stop. So that's the impact I'm seeing. Of course, it has impact on individuals because now companies may potentially say, okay, well, we're not doing well. We have inherited this complexity and now we have to cut it. So what do? Unfortunately, it impacts individuals, and individuals are being let go or asked to do something else.
Yeah. Your time is up, by the way. Yeah.
I
But hey, let me ask also one question. So do you think that it is only either or could it be that actually in order to get somewhere on a decent level, you need to do some kind of emergency deconstruction now before you can go into the gradual descaling? What do you think of that?
Again, probably. So let me think for a sec. I guess falling back on the, athletics or individual therapy, I think there are certain things that individuals as well as organizations could do what's called cold turkey. Like you have to stop short and things that will not dramatically impact health, life individually or organizational dynamics and operability. Those things potentially could be done more abruptly, but things that require more systemic, more ecosystemic changes that need to have a run. You can't just you can't lose 150 pounds overnight, but you can maybe dry yourself up for by 3-4 pounds going into a bout, right? By just losing water. So maybe that's the analogy, but you can find a happy medium somewhere.
Okay, thanks.
Hopefully that clarifies. So if this is my turn, my turn to ask you now, Wolfie, let me ask you my other question. What do you think? What ways of working can support descaling and increase resilience, and what do not? And again, if you feel you want to treat yourself the way you just treated me, if you want to give like a in between or maybe a happy medium scenario, go ahead and do that. But maybe you can share with us what you think, what ways of working would support descaling.
Well, because time is limited, I will straight jump to the organizational setup. So what I have seen over and over again as one of the big problems is that we have an armada of product owners, which are actually not product owners, they are team output owners. They focus on output, not on outcome. So I think my first takeaway would really be, in any organization up to even 13 teams, you should try to manage with one PO. So we have seen cases where this is possible. If you have the real a good PO, this person can really do this. And of course, this person doesn't work as you are used to. So there are other things. The person really focuses on the business, but this would be really the one takeaway. So I think number one PO. The second thing, what I have seen also in pretty dysfunctional organizations actually is when they have been doing one product backlog with customer-centric items. So this already brought a lot of focus in the organization. And then basically in the next step, we have actually manifested this as the normal. So, but that was really the first major aha moment where we had, at least in one organization, I have been one product backlog with customer-centric items. So that was important, not with technical items, but with customer-centric items. And then everybody, the whole organization was there basically in task force mode and working together on this. And the third building block is really feature teams. And what we mean by feature teams is that these teams, they can do something end to end. And that's again very important. So they are of course dedicated, so full-time people, they are co-located, okay, times of COVID, let's see about that, but cross-functional, and they are stable, they work together for a long time, and they of course need to be cross-component, cross-domain and stuff like this. Yeah. And well, then, of course, they need to be multi-skilled. Obviously, I already mentioned that earlier. They need to have technical excellence. So these are the kind of major building blocks, I would say, we have to get there. Yeah. And the don'ts, I would say, I just thought of you, like, for example, more roles. Yeah, we need project manager, we need release train engineers and stuff like that. Yeah. So, and we need more quality managers and all this. Yeah. So more roles, more roles. So big planning events, release planning events, these are transaction costs. If you don't know, please check transaction cost theory, apply this to the way of working. You will figure out that all planning events are actually transaction costs. Then if you have knowledge silos, if you separate decision making from the execution, basically theory X, the one thinks, the other one is doing. So all these kind of things. And I think last but not least, job safety. So I think a big do not do is to kick out people. You know? So I think Toyota has shown this, and also other companies have shown this, that even in hard times, you will find a way to keep the people, maybe with less salary or whatever, but generally try to keep the job safe, the salary safe, but not the role safe. So I think with these building blocks, you will get somewhere, you will descale the organization, and you will reduce the complexity in the organization.
Thank you. You're just about time anyway. So Wolfie, just another curveball before we wrap and open up for public, for everyone to answer or comment. Do you think, and this is maybe I call it a curveball for a reason. Do you think that when it comes to understanding and dealing with resilience, the messages that should be sent to organizational leadership, people that make decisions, organizational echelon, leadership echelon, should be different from the ones that are being sent to individuals? In other words, is there a when it comes to organizational resilience and becoming lean and nimble and light-footed and adaptive and agile, do you think there is a conflict of interest between companies and individuals? And individuals.
There doesn't need to be, let's put it this way. There might be, I don't know about that, yeah, but there doesn't need to be. That is, I think, the big point. And I think the key message what I would have here for managers or decision makers is really that you need to be able to create this environment in which the people can work. So I have seen this often enough that the managers give their view on this, and they try to dictate their view, and this doesn't really work. So I think there should be more working as a kind of an improvement service, and then whatever conflicts will be there, they will be resolved. So I don't see this as a problem now.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I'm going to add, it just came to my mind, and
Okay, yeah.
so I think someone agree with you. If your organization is already lean and nimble and
Yeah.
scale to the point where,
But just to make one last point, we are pretty extreme in an organization. We talk to each other.
yeah, yeah, that's an extreme way of communicating. You actually talk to each other, right?
Yes.
I was going to say, so if an organization is overly complex and big and cumbersome, then when it comes to a point where you have to make these unfortunate, dramatic decisions, then of course, from a standpoint of an organization, you need to get smaller, simpler, leaner. So you let go. But on the flip side,
No, you restructure. You don't letting go I would interpret this as you fire people. You don't want to fire people. You
it's right.
want to move the people into the value chain work, away from the overhead process work, moving them into the value generation work. It's a big change.
So that actually takes time, and that's what I refer to as a gradual improvement.
That's what you think.
You can disagree or agree partially, but what you described, that letting people go, that's a bad thing in general.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
why
totally devastating. Yeah, totally devastating.
when organizations live up to this unmanageable
Yeah.
side, have to do it, then for them, okay, I have to do what I have to do. But no one who is being let go now support it. No one loves the idea, right? Because people get hurt, people get impacted. So
and here again, we had just one case in Finland now, where one company says they want to lay off 300 people or something. Yeah? And then the prime minister was going there and asked him, why? You are making profit still. You make milliards of profit this year. Why do you need to let go people? It makes no sense whatsoever.
what did they say?
And I think, well, I don't know yet what is this answer. I mean, I guess this is ongoing, this discussion, but basically just this fundamental thinking that you must always have this shareholder value. I think that is a dangerous thing, So that might be tricky.
Sure, I agree.
Yep.
So look, you and
But
I,
hey, let's start the Q&A.
Yeah, we exceeded our time. So there was actually one in the queue from Ron. We can pick it up if you would. Why don't you pick one up, and maybe we can open up for a dialogue. The question was how to measure resilience. I mean, do you know how to measure resilience? Do you need to measure it, or if so, how do you measure it?
That's a good question. Well, out of the head, I wouldn't know how to measure it. I could say that I would have a list of qualitative criteria, like, for example, how many products do you have? How many product owners do you have? Is this a match? I mean, yeah, one product owner per product, and the products are big. How many teams you have per product? So maybe those would be indications. And then, of course, yeah. So and then maybe the throughput time. So that would be another thing. So how good is your throughput time compared to market competition? And another thing is this, that if you want to change one line of code, how long does it take before you can ship the product to the market? So if you change only one line of code and it takes you 3 months, I don't think you're very resilient.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess my 20 cents would be if something happens, adverse effects I'm referring to, and it's like a wind blows, right? And you used to be, you were able to stand still, and now wind blows and you are being very shaky and wobbly. That's not being resilient. But if you can withstand the sheer wind, that makes you more resilient. So if a company has to dramatically change things and swarm and try to change many things about it operates and restructure itself on the fly in an emergency way when there is an adverse effect, that probably it probably means that its resilience isn't high. But if the company is kind of prepared for it, well, there was a wind, I'll withstand it. There was a wave, I'll withstand it. So that's my 2 cents. There's one follow-up question from Roman. Do you agree
Roman,
with,
yeah.
if a company is in crisis, it's too late to work on resiliency? So basically,
No, it's never too late.
yeah,
It's
I
never too late.
would agree.
It's in none of the examples I can imagine it would be too late. There's always something you can do, and you can strengthen the organization a lot, and it doesn't take that much. It doesn't take, actually, in my opinion, much money at all. It doesn't take much time either. So I think within 2 or 3 weeks of preparation, you can dramatically change the structure of the organization, and then you would be able to be much more resilient for all these changes.
Yeah, never too late. Agree. Yeah, so there's some comments, not necessarily see questions. So in a very careful way, folks, if you want to just voice it so that everyone can hear it, just unmute, ask eloquently, shortly.
Yes.
Anyone?
Okay, hi, this is Roman from New York. I'm just going to voice the question that I kind of typed up. So for me, when I joined the organization and they'll say, we have an organization of 150 people, and then I start counting how many actually developers they have out of 150 people, and I counted 20, I was like, wow, this is not a lean organization. So I know they're not going to survive any kind of crisis. So for me, this ratio of people who actually, like Wolfie said, in the value chain, really developing the product, I think that's one of the KPIs we can use to determine if a company like focuses on resiliency and leniency. Would you agree?
Well,
You know,
that's
the ratio of developers versus everybody else.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we used also this one earlier in Nokia times, I remember, to just get a grab on the situation. Yeah. But again, this is not scientific method now. Yeah. So this is opinion. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
cool.
Do we have other questions?
Yeah, we see ping-in statements, but so folks, this is the time for you to pose a question or maybe make a comment out loud.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, this is David. So one thing I learned from the last training with Craig was percent of backlog items that a team can execute on. For me, that kind of resonates with resiliency, that, if we're refining together and learning together as an organization, the teams can pivot onto new, more valuable work in a shorter amount of time. That's kind of what I meant by mean time to pivot. Does it take a full sprint, or does it take 3 sprints? How long does it take for a team to pivot onto new work? So hopefully it's very minimal because of the refinement process, right?
Yeah.
Good comment. Wolf, you want to reflect?
Yeah, basically, I mean, this is typically also a subject of at least also my training. So we introduce the Venn diagram and discuss about this, that how much is there an overlap, or even if you have feature teams. So this is not 100%, let's say, self-evident that even if you do have feature teams, that you have a perfect situation. Because if they all are competent on feature X and now you need feature Y, then it doesn't really help you. So in this way, I think we want to have this intersection of this as big as possible in perfect situation, 100%. And that is, I think, what David, you refer to. Yeah. So that how many backlog items they can do. Yeah.
I think we also stress plenty in less in large.
Yeah, but we are focusing so much on the work itself, right? In reality, if I do less number of features and the organization is able to have more profits and more revenue in situations which are bad, it's better than just putting out features. The question happens is, why do we need the features in the first place? We have sufficiently minimal features that can take care of what my product is in the market in bad times. So there's no one answer. We kind of allude to that people need to do work, they need to do the right work and so forth, but why are we doing the work, and how does this work? Is this work required at all? Because I come from the school that 95% of work that we do is waste. If you look at lean and Toyota today is one of the biggest proponents of lean. And they say in 50% of 70% of the work that we do at Toyota is waste today. So if their purpose is to transport people, they want to look at transporting people without buying the cars or without making the cars in the first place. Now that would be effective transportation. So we don't look at that kind of effectiveness when we look at.
Yeah, but you need to be careful. I think that in this way the question is that in which business is Toyota in? Are they in the transport business, or are they in the automotive business? And the same is, I think, applicable for every company. So I guess maybe on the long term, yes, you can question your business. On the long term, you might want to shift the business. But I think in the short term, you will need to simply survive. You will fight for your survival in the short term and in the long term. And I think that is the challenge. So how do you make money now that you can pay your people and that you have a future? So in this way, and I think the waste in normal companies, I remember Mary Poppendick saying this once some years back. It's about 3 to 9%, when I remember right. So that is the value at the time, and the rest is waste.
Yes.
So most companies produce mostly waste. So if you are thinking that you are having only 50% waste, I don't think so. Yeah, most likely.
No, I mean, Toyota says they are 70% waste, and they are a gold standard market. So compared to them, everybody should be worse off. That's what I was pointing.
Yes, might well be. Yeah. It's very hard to measure, but anyway, so that is the thing. Yeah, that most companies, I think, especially in IT, what I have also seen, there's a lot of waste, and that is also a big potential. That's what I mean with the extra weight. Yeah, get rid of the extra weight there. Simplify your processes, simplify your interactions. Don't have the middleman. Cut out the middleman. Let the middleman do something meaningful, and not just be a middleman.
And
woman, yeah.
We do explicitly recommend. So we mentioned before, job security versus role security. In large scale Scrum, it's a big thing. We don't want people to be let go out of the waste area and putting them into the value chain. This takes some time, but it gives them an opportunity to add value. But you actually are flattening, you are descaling within the ecosystem that is required for. In product development, for example, so you don't want to have any translators or managers running back and forth between teams coordinating, right? So take the folks and give them options, right? Either jump on teams and deliver value, or go in front of the food chain, the value chain, and do something there, or something else, right?
So what is the definition of value? It sounds like in the short term, when something bad happens, is it just cash flow? Like I've heard one, I think it was Guy Kowalski give a presentation, said just sell everything, you need cash. Right? Is that what we're talking about when we talk about short-term survival, just cash? And if you're not doing something that contributes to cash, then, well, you might want to have your job refocused.
Well, I think I'm aware there are companies which are doing pretty well, and they are running out of cash, so they have all their money stuck in some investments or in something which they cannot use to pay employees. So I mean, if you a little bit look into the business side, which is now completely out of the less scope, yeah. But anyway, so then yes, it might be that the company does have money but has no cash, because all the money what they have is stuck in investments and they can't cash it in, basically. And that's a big problem for companies. So of course you have to be positive cash flow, but that's a minimum of any company, what you have to make sure that you are positive cash flow. I'm not sure, does this now go in the direction, Ron, what you had, or was this not something else? Not quite sure.
Well, it's if you're looking for cash and then you're doing it at any expense, you might have things that you have on the shelf. So for instance, if you're selling cars, you might want to deep discount those cars just so that you have the cash to keep your business open for the next X number of days. Like when I've been involved in startups, we talk about having a burn rate of cash. And if it's very short, then, you know, you can't make the short term, then there's no long term with regards to your business strategy. So is the basic survival just how long can you burn with the cash that you have, right? But then hopefully that's long enough, because I think eventually value has a higher level of meaning, and I think that comes more with strategy. And unfortunately, I think a lot of companies don't have a very strong strategy, right? And then now you have to pivot. So then now what do you do?
Yeah. I mean, these are quite very valid points. So, but you have them, I think, independent anyway. So, and I understood we wanted to have the discussion here more focused on the organizational design to some extent, or when I'm getting this right. So that I think you do have a valid point, absolutely. Not sure how well it's matched with the topic.
Okay, I'm just saying what's coming to my mind. That's cool.
That's sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for this one, Ron. Thanks for chiming in. Yeah, folks, this is an open dialogue. This is an open bridge. Any other thoughts? So just to stay on course again. So we started off, not to forget this, where the true north is, right? We started off with organizational resilience during tough times and beyond. And if we go off on a tangent a little bit, that's fine. But the main theme was resilience, organizational resilience, and what does it mean to companies and individuals, or the lack of thereof.
Can I raise another, just an idea?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, when I worked for a number of large organizations, especially over the last 10 years. And a lot of companies, especially in the financial industry, spend a lot of time on building risk matrices and actually costing out the risk. And going through and planning for a pandemic, you know, I was involved in that, you know, with the bird flu and all these other things that sort of led up. So, you know, I heard that maybe one way to approach resilience is looking at your risk register and understanding the things that can disrupt your business, and then adequately planning that out. Like, how ready are you to respond? And some things take a little longer, right, in order to make happen, right?
Yeah.
So it is creating risk. Is that perhaps a way to measure resilience, the amount of risk that you have as an organization?
Well, the amount of
tell me
risk.
no, that's fine too.
No, the amount of risk. So if I remember when we did the kind of risk analysis, then you have the impacts and you have the probabilities and stuff like this. So what is the amount there? Yeah. So you don't want to just count the risks, because I guess something like COVID was most likely on a very low probability with huge impact. And then you said, well, we don't want to prepare for it, because if it hits us, or let's say if it doesn't hit us, we spend so much money on tackling the risks that we are out of business before we even can do anything. So not sure.
Yeah, but large corporations spend a lot of money. Like here in Toronto, it snows, and then there's often a snow day. So what companies do is they plan for snow days. And how do they go and test to make sure they're resilient to withstand a snow day? Is that they make sure from either the last snow day or going through, and they do a test run to make sure that everyone can work from home. It just so happens, and bird flu is the same. That's an extended period of working from home that companies invest in.
Well, you know, I do live in Finland, so we typically have plenty of snow in Finland. So I think comparing snow to the pandemic right now is a little bit unbalanced.
No, I'm just giving you an example. But we did start planning for going through for the bird flu when that started coming up, and as a large company taking care of the business for banks. we spent at least you know, a weekend or a full week going through and doing business continuity planning, like disaster planning and cutovers. Like these are things that larger businesses actually do.
Yes. Yeah, I think.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I got a question offline. Someone threw it at me. So go ahead. Finish off what you were saying. Yeah.
No, I think these are all very valid points, and I think you also need to do those. But then again, even I think the nicest plans might still hinder you to be flexible if you have to carry, let's say, the cannonball on your food chain. Yeah. And I think that is what we are trying to tackle here, or at least what I try to help organizations, is not to focus on how do you make your business risk analysis. I'm trying to help people how to design your organization so that your organization in itself becomes much more leaner and less complex. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm for me at least, I'm defocusing on this other stuff. Yeah. So I have an opinion based on my history from program management. I was also there discussing with the guys at Nokia Networks level, and so we had a lot of exchange there. So, but that is still is a different thing you also need to do. But if you only do this and you don't tackle the structural organizational thing, then it will not help that much either.
Yeah, Wolfie, someone sent me a ping on my personal Slack offline. So the question really comes in the form of, well, this is a great topic. You know, people acknowledge that it's an interesting topic, but what exactly does it have to do with large scales? Like how I'm interpreting what I read. How does a large scale Scrum really come into play, and how does it help with organizational resilience? And is it like a magic wand? Is it going to solve the world's hunger problem? And if an organization wasn't like less org structure, would it even make sense to try to change something now where we are like 1 foot into the door of crisis?
Okay, many questions. Let's hope I get them all. So what does this have to do with less? So first of all, less is not a scaling framework. Less is an organizational design framework, which is targeted at descaling organizations and reducing complexity, and it's optimized for adaptiveness. Adaptiveness meaning agility, flexibility. So the entire less framework itself is focused on.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. This is from me personally. Is this then my personal question to you? And I have my view on this, but what's yours? Is it fair to let's say someone tries to list their knowledge of scaling, and if they put in the same brackets less and some other XYZE, does it even make sense? Can you put these two in the same curly brackets? Does it even make sense?
No, not really.
Okay, I mean
I think we try to do different things. So other frameworks are optimized for something else. I don't know what they're optimized for. I'm still trying to figure this one out. But I can tell you that less is clearly optimized for adaptiveness and extremely consequent optimized for adaptiveness. And that is what the whole framework rules are made out of.
Yeah, okay. That answers my question. Go on.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and then there was the second part was that is it too late if you are now already and so on having a different structure? No, it's never too late. That was my earlier comment also. So even in these times nowadays, like I said, you are capable to educate yourself on this topic. We do have the trainings, we do have the online trainings, we do have online coaching. My experience, it takes about 2 or 3 weeks of preparation time, depending on the organization, how much they can learn. And then basically you can make the flip. And we have done already the flips now online, so that we have formed a new organization online. And then the people start to work in this new organization, and you will see the benefits of it. Maybe you don't see the benefits now, or you see them maybe in a different light than they used to be, because the people are not in the office. But anyway, you set the foundation for a better future in this way. That is my opinion. Without promising too much, but that's what I have seen.
Right.
So this changes, this organization changes what we have done into real end-to-end feature teams and so on, with one product backlog, one product owner, and so on. I mean, this was a change from like day and night. You know, and at this time we have really written history in this one company, and it has so boosted the motivation of the people that the management was just dreaming before of getting this motivation and never succeeded, and now they got it for free without doing anything. It just happened. So, and that was really the fundamental change what we have seen there.
Thank you. Aaron, you put a comment there, which is, pretty, I think it's a thoughtful comment. It's a little long. Do you mind just voicing it so everyone can hear? And
yeah. So to keep it simple, that you really have almost 3 or 4 different segments, almost from a microeconomic standpoint, of companies, from global, multinational, 5,000 biggest companies in the world, to sort of regional and domestic versions of that, and then to startups and smaller entities. They each have radically different value chains from a complexity standpoint. I would argue, and most of the research is that it's sort of an order of magnitude as you move up each one of them. And as you move to the larger structures, there's a concept called strategic assembly, which is really sort of how most big companies do most of what they do with partnerships and innovation and acquisitions and sort of capital investment. And I think one of the challenges is that how do we tie less into that stratagem versus trying to reverse engineer that stratagem, which is, I don't know how that's possible culturally. Because you're talking about, whatever, changing the thought patterns of, the 500,000 decision makers in the world that run these companies. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I like to cite Confucius. Yeah, the 1,000-mile journey starts with the first step. So there has to be somebody who is in a company. It doesn't matter which size. Yeah, who says, yes, I want to do this. I want to try this either as an experiment, which would be actually ideal, that you really already are that far as a manager that you say, okay, I'm into experiments. Typically, it doesn't happen like this. But anyway, let's say that we do this, we try this out, we see how it works. If it doesn't work, we test something else, yeah, and we are flexible in this whole thing. So this is actually what we would like to have. And then if you have a smaller company, most likely you can change the entire company faster. If you have a large company, like a really huge company, and remember, I was coming from Nokia, 50,000 people, yeah, the question is, can you ever change it completely? I a little bit doubt it, because it is just so big that you need a lot of at some point of time you need this kind of bureaucracy, and then this will hinder you. But of course, you can still make it much better. And I have seen organizations in Finland. I had some workshops with HR department, for example. So they really finally understood, okay, what does agility mean for them? And they really said, hey, we need to completely change our way of thinking. We are not there to dictate. We are there to help the value chain workers, whatever they are now, yeah? And we are there to support them. You need a different career path. Let's do this. Can the developer earn as much as a vice president? Yes. So and those kind of things. So there's a lot of support functions which can either hinder such a growth, or they can actually flourish this and make the environment in which this is possible. Another good example is, if you want to go, is to also beyond budgeting. If you go to the finance world, to the whole world of KPIs, of target setting, all this. Also here, if you have a bigger company, it will be harder. If you have a smaller company, it's easier. But if you have, even if a bigger company, I mean, typically there is some hierarchy in forms of, there's a business unit, a business line, or something like this, or maybe a division. And maybe within this division, they can do completely different things in other divisions. That's what's happened in Nokia. So mobile phones was one division, Nokia Networks was another one, and they did completely different things. So they were very, very autonomous, and they could really experiment on their own. So I think it is possible. Does this help? Okay.
Yeah. Aaron, yeah, thanks. Thanks, Vol. Okay, so we're T-5. We got 5 minutes remaining.
Oh,
Does
already.
anyone else want to, ask something or challenge or maybe anything really? Another curveball question at the audience, perhaps. Speaking of organizational resilience, I think we kind of covered some of the facets, some of the dimensions. Does anyone have any personal sentiments about some of the recent, maybe these are observations or what they have felt on their own skin with regards to organizational decisions, with regards to what organizations are going through at the moment, right? They're going through hard times. Does anyone have any observations? Maybe we see, maybe someone wants to say, hey, an organization, my company is doing X, Y, Z, and they have never done this before, or so maybe something along that, maybe just an observation or reflection of what they see, have been seeing.
Hey, I'd like to share something very brief from my observations. This pandemic and this modality change for many companies that are going through just put more emphasis on IT. If not for information technology, for the networking, internet, e-commerce, the world would literally end. You know what I'm saying? But because of the information technologies, people they don't go shopping. Amazon is thriving, delivering stuff. We keep working, right? IT organizations proved, even Scrum organizations, that we can do Scrum online, right? So the IT jobs, IT organizations were pretty stable and supported the whole infrastructure, the whole world. But the companies that were prepared to pivot, right, to expand, to change from one service to another, they are the ones who are thriving right now. So the resiliency right now, who were prepared even without their knowing, just maybe doing the lean and agility implemented, became more resilient, right? So from IT perspective, I think it just proves our importance and that we are in a good field.
Oh, sure, I think. Thank you for the comment, Roman. Yeah. Now,
Maybe still a comment to what Roman said, also what I have heard from other companies, is this, that maybe it isn't as bad for many as it maybe looks like in the one or the other case. I mean, we have seen amazing things, that decisions to introduce tools like Zoom or Teams or anything like this, it would have taken months if it ever would have happened. Now, within 2 weeks, those tools were implemented, deployed, and everybody had it. Or the other big thing is this, that now managers who were still tending to micromanage the organizations now all of a sudden learned, okay, I need to let go and trusting the people. And there is now creating much more trust in the organization. And they are surprised. It still works. They're still productive. So in this way, I think there's a lot of positive things which we can also learn from these challenges right now and take away. So I hope they will stick in the future also, and they don't go back to the old methods.
In other words, it doesn't have to become a dramatic cataclysmic event for companies to change and for people to change, right? We don't have to wait for some.
People are not stupid. They know how to survive. We have known how to survive for a long time. So, and with a little bit of applying this to the work patterns, I think great things can happen.
Agreed. All right, we're at the hour, so we're literally a few seconds before we have to wrap. So before we start having people drop, already if you did, I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank you, Wolfie, to coming out and be my wingman here and entertain people.
Thank you. Pleasure was all mine.
Yeah, and so I pinged in the chat room the link where we're going to put a recording with some other additional resources if you wish to explore those. And thank you all for joining. And hopefully we're going to have another event that will bring you also back to the chat room, to the Zoom channel. We're going to have another person from the UK, Karim Harblet, coming in speaking a couple of weeks from now. Anyway, thank you all for joining. It's been a great pleasure to have you all here. Wolfie, once again, thank you. I'm going to cut
welcome.
it. And once I do, we'll go to the cloud, okay? The recording.
Thank you, Gene.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.